In this video, I'm going to show you two projects, and I'm going to show you how a designer illustrates her understanding of the needs of a client through the use of a concept image and text. I'm going to show you how this designer illustrates how a concept can be applied to critical parts of the project. And I'm going to show you how illustrating the needs of the client and the design concept sets the tone for the rest of the design process. So we're going to start with this project right here. And what you're seeing is the first page or set of pages, what we call a spread, where it opens like a book on a project for this company, Humana. Now, just to look at this, we'll see how a designer illustrates this understanding of the needs of the client through the use of a concept image and text. Now, even though in the design education process, we tend to think about design concepts as being based on objects that reflect the client, often in the real world, it's based on the values of the company or perhaps the logo. In this case, the needs of the client and the use of this concept image is really based on this idea that the company is very dedicated to serving others. And so you can see this concept image comes in really strong to show a sense of collaboration and community and integrating of people and skills and products. That's what I gather when I look at this very large image that's put at the forefront of the presentation. Now, as far as text goes, you can see that the designer brought in really important information about the client needs here. It's succinct, but there's a lot of information. The designer discusses kind of the scope of Humana, where this project is going to be located, and the size of the project, and when it, of course, begins. And so you can see that basic information right here. The company's mission is brought in, again, as a way to showcase the client's, the designer's understanding of the client. And a lot of that's going to drive the design concept and the design of the space itself. And so you can see also down here, this is the responsibilities and contributions of the designer, what we also refer to as the scope of work. And so you can see right on that first page, you've got the name of the company, the values of the company spelled out in the mission, basic information about the designer scope of work, and an image that sets this kind of concept and tone. Next, I want to show you how the designer illustrates how this concept can be applied to critical parts of the project. Now, at this point, you can see all we have is a very basic floor plan here. And it's starting to illustrate where certain elements within the floor plan are going to be. And then there's this information about kind of code compliance and what we call life safety down here. But what I want to draw your attention to right now is how a concept can be applied to critical parts of the project. And at this very early programming stage, it's extremely minimal. You can see that the color tones and some of this concept is being brought in very subtly right here. You can see that there's a concept image brought in with this tree that can in some way symbolize a sense of collaboration and growth and community that often happens in the natural world. You can see there's an inclusion of some natural materials here coming in the form of finishes. We don't see where they're being applied to this floor plan yet. All we're seeing is just swatches here. You can see we've also got some color tones brought in. And if we go back to the client's name and logo, you can see that that really soft green is coming across from the name over into the selections here. It's very, very subtle, but bringing in this combination of the needs of the client and these very early representations of how the concept will be applied to the interior through the use of these color schemes and materials starts to set the tone for the rest of the design project. Let's go ahead and take another look here. Let's look at another project. This one follows a similar process, but it's done in a different way. You can see here how the designer illustrates the understanding of the needs of the client through the use of concept, image, and text again here. You can see the client name has been brought in, their logos coming in, right at the upper left hand of corner of the first page. And so that's really the place of prominence. That's where the eye goes first. You can see once again the information about the location and size of the project, as well as the company's mission brought in right at the forefront. So that's that crucial text that's showing the understanding of the designer of the client needs right here. And then again, the scope of work as well. You can see that there's this great image coming in at the forefront. Now, in this case, it's not necessarily showing the concept of collaboration necessarily in the photograph of bringing people together, like we saw in this project with this image right here. Instead, what they're showing is a very early rendering of a very dynamic and collaborative and fun space where people can gather. And so when you think about the mission statement of this company, where it's really serving hotel brands, it's bringing in and showcasing the relationships of people. Now you're starting to see how that mission is being applied in this image. It's not a specific concept image necessarily in the way that we think about it in the design program. However, for the real world application of a design concept, this is right on, because it's taking the desire of this hospitality company to bring people together and showcase brands, and it's showing that in this rendering. Now, even though right now we don't know too much about kind of how we can apply this concept to critical parts of the project from a design development point of view, we do have some programming plans here in which the designer has provided some schemes here of how the design and the floor plan might be presented. And they're using this really fun and colorful color scheme that is drawn directly from the color in the company's logo and starting to be applied to areas within this floor plan. Now, if we zoom in, we can see what these color tones mean. But for right now, it does a wonderful job of showing how the concept of this fun and dynamic space will be applied to critical parts of the project by highlighting and using color in a very dynamic way in the presentation of these programming plans. And so you can see here in both examples how the designer is illustrating the needs of the client by showing some representation of a design concept at the first part of the presentation, and then how this concept can affect several areas of the design itself on the right side of the presentation, and that this sets the tone for the design process. So once a client saw this, they would at least have some basic information to respond to decide if the designer is going in the right direction and is representing their needs. And also, this shows how a designer might be able to showcase their skills to a potential employer, even at these early stages of these projects, because it indicates that the designer understands the hierarchy of how information is presented, right? It shows what information is more important than others based on its placement and size within the presentation, and also showcases how floor plans can be manipulated in a graphic way and how material swatches can be showcased in a unique presentation that can, again, set the tone for the design process.